Good morning, everybody. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. A little bit of a different assembly today. No Vanessa, but I'm delighted to say that Sue Ives is taking our assembly today. So over to her, and see you next week for our final assembly. Bye.
Hello everybody, it's me, Sue, doing your little assembly, and I've got something very cool to show you. There'll be a little pause while I set it up. Here he is. It's called a drinking bird. My grandma had one. I remember playing with it. We loved it. If you look carefully, you'll see there's a glass tube with a bulb on the end. The bulb is filled with a red liquid. There is a bulb at the top as well, and that's what makes his head. It's quite a warm day today, and that makes the red liquid go up the tube, fill the head, so he tips forward and takes a drink. The cold water cools the liquid, it goes back down the tube, into the bulb, and it all starts again. It's amazingly effective, and I never get tired of watching it. This little guy's been going for about 10 minutes now. Let's just watch him do it once more. Oh, it's taking its time. How's that liquid? Oh yeah, nearly there, nearly there. Oh, so close. Yay! Fab. Now what I didn't say earlier was how incredibly difficult it is to set this up. You wouldn't believe it. It took me over half an hour. The reason is because you have to get the pivot point just right. If again we have a closer look, oh, there he goes, you will see that the little bird pivots on that silver collar. It has to be perfectly balanced in order to make it work. Do you know, that might have a little bit to say about our current situation. We don't really feel in balance, do we? It's often hard to balance everything in our lives, particularly at the moment when we're stuck at home, unable to see our friends and family members. It makes us feel unsettled, maybe a bit frightened, uncertain. There's always that thought in the back of our minds that something, maybe lots of things, are not right. Unlike the bird, things are really out of balance. There's a book of the Bible called Ecclesiastes. It was written by someone very wise, and there's one particular section which really makes sense, especially at this time. Here's a bit from chapter 3. There is a right time for everything. Everything on earth has its special season. There's a time to be born and a time to die. There is a time to destroy and a time to build. A time to cry and a time to laugh. There's a time to be sad and a time to dance. There's a time to hug and a time not to hug. There's a time to look for something and a time to give up looking. There's a time to keep things and a time to throw things away. There's a time to be silent and a time to speak. There's a time to love and a time to hate. There's a time for war and a time for peace. A friend of mine wrote some extra verses which I think make a lot of sense and could be helpful in this situation. A time to rush and a time to be still. A time for talking and a time for silence. A time for our friends and a time by ourselves. A time for school and a time for home. A time for screens and a time for people. A time for challenge and a time for comfort. A time to act and a time to think. A time for reality and a time for dreaming. A time for lockdown and a time for freedom. I know it's difficult to keep life in balance at the moment, but things will get back to normal, or maybe they'll be even better than before. In the meantime, let's try to make the best of every day, to use our time wisely and to keep in balance, like our bird. Hello, I'm so pleased I got to show you my drinking bird. I couldn't really do it as an assembly because if we were in the church or the hall, you'd never have seen it. So keep safe and well. Look forward to seeing you in September.